Tim Radford from the Climate News Network put out an article that was reposted by TruthDig.com. The link is in the show notes below, going through basically how the world's great cities hold the keys to fossil fuel cuts. There's some key statistics in here. And what the article goes into, and I'll touch on some of the highlights, are that 54% of humanity that lives in cities account for more than 70% of global energy use. And so carbon footprints in an urban area are bigger than in a rural area. And some of the cities, and I'll go through the list, are cities that are obvious, but many of the cities, are in rich countries, meaning then that those countries, those local governments, those municipalities have the money and the resources to do changes, to implement changes. Like here in Los Angeles, they started a natural gas burning bus fleet maybe 15, 20 years ago, or maybe even more than that, because Southern California's had a smog problem. They put money into light rail. They are increasing the infrastructure of electric vehicle charging stations. They're doing all these things to bring the carbon footprint lower. And there's a lot of things that people can do just in high rises. They've done studies of, like, in big concrete urban areas in the summertime when the sun's out, so it's even hotter than it is in the rural areas because there's no grass, there's no trees. Trees moderate and obviously bring the temperature. When you just have concrete, everything just cooks and bakes and gets hotter and hotter. And they've seen putting grass and gardens on the roofs of buildings and roof decks and all that stuff. Solar panels, there's a lot of things you can do, but I want to give you some of the statistics here to show you what the situation is. But to me, there's, like, as is the case with most climate change, or the climate, basically we're in a climate crisis right now, there's a lot of clear-cut solutions that are right there that would actually benefit everybody, give people more jobs, put people to work, build products and make us more efficient and cleaner and save the human race. So the top 100 highest footprint cities worldwide drive roughly 20% of the global carbon footprint, said Daniel Moran of the Norwegian University of Science and Technology. This means concerted action by a small number of local mayors and governments can significantly reduce national carbon footprints. This is why I talk a lot on this show, how it's all local. And I know I'm a broken record, but there's just more and more evidence to support this. We just keep expecting every 4 years the president to go into the White House and wave the big pen and everything's fixed. And it's like we can fix everything on a local level. Ron Placone talks about this in terms of battling they're trying to get rid of net neutrality, is municipal broadband. You petition your city to get municipal broadband. Well, here's things to petition your city to do. So Dr. Moran and colleagues from Japan, the US, and Sweden report in the Journal of Environmental Research Letters that they define cities as densely populated, continuously built-up urban areas, often straddling administrative boundaries. From space, Manchester and Salford in the UK would look like one city. Manhattan and Brooklyn in the US, or Tokyo and Yokohama in Japan would fade into each other. The researchers then matched all the information they could find out about existing carbon footprints, estimates of energy consumption, with national statistics on spending patterns, regional purchasing power data, and a population map. So 600 urban centers are thought to account for 60% of the global gross domestic product. That's significant. Again, that gross domestic product could be green energy and green technology. There's a factory that makes plastic cups. Plastic cups are bad. Well, you can make cups now out of plant-based plastics that are compostable. The factory doesn't put all these harmful emissions into the air. That factory doesn't need to close. They can just, change it inside. I'm not a factory guy, but do you see my point? You see things like that actually benefit people and benefit workers and save the planet? Wouldn't you, if you worked in a plastic cup factory and they said, we're going to change it to make cups that are more sustainable and better for your air, and that's water. We're not polluting the water and the air anymore in this local community with this factory. And these cups are compostable, and it's better for your kids and your grandkids. Wouldn't you just, and we're going to pay you the same amount of money or even give you a raise, wouldn't you be like, yeah, I'm in. I'm actually happy to go to work today, versus this is the only place I could get a job and I hate that they poison the environment, but what else can I do? Cities are hotter than the surrounding countryside. But as the world warms, more people and more cities become increasingly vulnerable to extremes of heat and flood. We've seen examples of this. Many of you are like, look what's happening in my city. And not just heat, but also extreme weather. Like, why is it snowing in April and May? In March, you guys were showing me frozen lakes and all this stuff. The scientists assembled their list of 13,000 cities from data from 187 of the world's nations. To altogether, 195 nations in the 2015 Paris Accord agreed to work together to contain global warming driven by fossil fuel use and consequential increases in atmospheric carbon dioxide to, if possible, no more than 1.5 centigrade above historic levels by 2100. The new study delivers some useful places to begin. The top 100 cities are home to only 11% of the world's population, but drive 18% of the global carbon footprint. That's significant. The top three: Seoul, Korea, Guangzhou in China, and New York City. I've been to Guangzhou and New York. But other metropolitan areas with unexpectedly large carbon footprints include Cologne in Germany, Manchester in the UK, and Montreal in Canada. Of the top 200, 41 cities, and those include Cairo, Egypt, Dhaka in Bangladesh, and Lehman, Purdue, are countries where both total emissions and emissions per head are low. But many of the world's most carbon-intensive cities are in the world's richest nations. That's the thing I was talking about. And here's the final quote from Dr. Moran. The fact that carbon footprints are highly concentrated in affluent cities means that targeted measures in a few places by selected coalitions can have a large effect covering important consumption hotspots. This is why you petition your local lawmakers for this. Right? So what does it matter if we get a progressive on the school board? What does that do? Oh, then the school board of the entire school district can then take measures to reduce the carbon footprint of that school district. Do you see how significant that is? Do you see how it's not just one little person on a little school board? Do you see what that means? Your city council getting involved in your local government. You see how important that is? So this is why you need to stay involved and keep getting these little victories. Like I talked about Gail McLaughlin. She ran for lieutenant governor in California and just lost in the primary. But look what she did in her little town of Richmond, California. 7 city council seats. 5 of them were progressives. And she beat Chevron. So get these little cities, get the big cities, wherever you live, petition them to start making these changes. Because if big cities start doing big changes, and then when they have those conference of mayors and all the mayors get together and talk, get the information, get the statistics to say this will help the city, it'll save the city money. It's like the Inconvenient Truth sequel, where Al Gore goes to that mayor of that very red town in Texas, like the reddest city and the reddest county and the reddest state, and he's like, oh, we went to clean energy because it was just cheaper for our city. You know, if your city goes to solar and wind power, in 20 years, the city's going to be making money off electricity. So these are the little things you can do to get involved. It's a big, and this gives me hope when I read stuff like this. Because if this big city changes and this big city changes, and all of a sudden all these big cities, their carbon footprint gets better and better, and they do all these little things. They did a law when the mayor was Villagrosa in Los Angeles. He said we're going to plant 1 million trees. More trees in Los Angeles. More shade, lowers the heat, the temperature, cleans the air, looks better. There you go. Thanks for watching the show. June 20th through the 24th, Ron Placone and I are going to Nashville, Huntsville, Asheville, North Carolina, Louisville, Kentucky, and Atlanta, Georgia. Get your tickets now. Some of the venues, the tickets are going quickly, so get them before they sell out at GrahamElwood.com. Support me on the Patreon. All of the links are below.